give you a little overview of what has shaped my life in the art world. I've studied art for many years. I've collected art for approximately 50 years. And I'm going to be talking to a group of people that are my peers, and they have children and grandchildren, and what they should be told about collecting art. Now, in collecting art, today, I'm asked many times, what do I do to collect art? The most important thing to tell your children, your grandchildren, or if you're putting a collection together, buy your personal taste. That's number one. That's most important. If in some cases people say, well, you gotta buy this artist, and it's not your taste, and you don't get the full enjoyment out of it. The second thing to look for when you're collecting an art is the background, the history. What has the artist done to give him the right to charge $100 or $1,000 or $10,000 for a piece of art? Most great artists have gone to art schools. They're very talented to start with. So the most important thing is that they understand how to paint, how to stretch a canvas, and they have the education behind them. And then they can do almost anything. If you looked at Picasso's early work, it was so realistic when he was 8 and 9 years old. You look at Dali's early work, it was super realism. But they earned a right to go into Impressionism, Surrealism, abstraction, and so on. But sometimes I'm asked, how did the art get to where it is today? Well, art really evolved slowly with the Impressionists. But in 1917 was one of the most important eras that changed art for the rest of our times. And that was a group of artists that got together in a restaurant in Switzerland. And they said, and they were looking at what was going on. There was thousands and thousands of people killed in the war. There was famine, there was starvation. And what they said, all these beautiful paintings that depict everything beautiful has to be destroyed because the world is not that way. So they set out a project to destroy art, to say that art doesn't have the meaning, and they opened up a dictionary and they put their finger down, and the first word it came on was Dada. And it was the beginning of the Dada movement, and from that evolved Surrealism and many other types of art. And that was the big turning point on art in our history. The next thing when you're looking at collecting art is if the artist can establish a local, a national, or an international reputation. Now, some of these young artists that are 19 and 20 years old can do that. Some of them it takes till they're 50 or 60. The most important thing, if they have all the qualification, if they have a unique style, and when I say unique, is when you look at it and it doesn't look like somebody else's work, then the artist has a chance. I just went through looked at George's work on found objects on the menorah. It's unbelievably good work. It is very, very good work, and nobody else can say the same thing. I mean, he's doing his own work. When you look at collecting for investment, that gets a little bit harder, because at our age, you don't look at it as investment anymore, because investing in art is a period of 40 or 50 years. What happened 50 years ago will say what's going to happen, or what happens today, it's going to be 50 years from now. I go back to the time when Andy Warhol had his first show in Los Angeles. He had his original unique works at $100. He had his limited edition serigraphs at $30. This is absolutely the price. I can tell you the gallery owner sold 3 of the originals and felt so bad about it that he went back to the clients and said, I have to keep the collection together. It was a Savrin soup cans. I think there were 25 or 26 images. They sold them back to him, and he compensated him. and he went to Warhol and said, Andy, these have to go into the museum someday. Warhol said, yes. And he said, what will you take for all 26 pieces, or 25? Warhol said, I'll take $1,000. It took him 10 months to pay the $1,000. He paid $100 a month. We had a show in San Francisco with Andy Warhol's work in 1980 or 81. You could have bought 3 original paintings and all the serigraphs for around $300,000. Today, recently, a Warhol painting, a self-portrait, sold for $100 million. We can talk about Picasso's, or we can talk about almost any of the artists. George O'Keeffe, for example, in 1960, you could have bought a George O'Keeffe painting for $5,000. Today, $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. An artist that I'd like to talk about is Norman Rockwell. I got trapped by the art critics. I loved Rockwell. I liked his style. I liked what he was doing. And I had 2 original paintings. And we had them on exhibit in the gallery. They were $80,000 in 1981, I believe it was. The critics put an article in the paper that said Rockwell will never have any value, and that he's an illustrator. Today, the same Rockwell painting will sell for $10 million that I had in the gallery. So I've seen a lot of these things that have gone on in the industry. But basically, when you think about collecting, collect your personal taste, get unique art. That's most important.